Hey everybody, Rick Bassman here for three-way dance edition of Talking Tough. We have an amazingly special show today, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But because I always like to hear myself talk at the top of these things, there's a couple of things I want to share. So there is a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now, and it's been an interesting time for me, for all of us, I think. Typically, I'm usually pretty apathetic. I don't get too affected or caught up in anything. I mean, 9/11 obviously was a huge tragedy. Maybe I just didn't have feelings back in those days. So I'm like, it's just another thing. And I know it sounds horrible to put it that way. The point is, in today's day and age, with everything that's happening out there politically, racially, with religion, there is so much divisiveness in the U.S. and in the world that it's getting to me. So, it's interesting. I'm not going to introduce our guests yet, but I'm going to say this about them collectively. We have three of the toughest human beings on the face of the planet on today. And I'm going to introduce them in a moment. They're all very unique. They're all very, very strong in their convictions. They have points of view. And they're listening to me right now, and they're probably all going to disconnect when they hear this because they're going to be, what the hell did we just sign up for? But it's almost like I feel like asking the world to hold hands and sing a song of unity, because I don't know about all of you out there, but I'm tired by it. I'm tired by the debate and by the anger and the hatred. And I am going to do my level best to keep politics and religion out of the discussion today. I know that, and I'll say this also, you guys will never know what side of the aisle I'm on, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. None of that matters to me right now, because in my mind, we're all people and we need each other. We need to support each other in order to move forward and kind of build build a better planet, or God knows, a better country here in the U.S. It's 1 month today that my best friend on this planet, my dog, Ramon, passed. So that's on my mind today. Maybe it's making me take things a little personally, but it is what it is. I know what I would like today. I'd like to hear from three of the toughest guys in the world and get to know their personalities and what it's taken for these guys to become who they are. They're warriors. They're inspirations. The show today is called 598 Fights. Why is that? Because if you add up the records, the sanctioned fight records, we're not talking about smokers and street fights and unsanctioned fights and God knows what else, because we'd be in the thousands, I'm sure. But there are 598 sanctioned fights on the record today for our three guests. They are the three most prolific fighters in mixed martial arts history. Two of them have been longtime friends, I'm happy to say. One is a gentleman I've got to know a little bit just lately. I'm very glad that he's agreed to join us today. Without any further delay, I want to introduce the three busiest fighters in the history of mixed martial arts. And so there's no mistaking, in alphabetical order: the Iron Man, Travis Fulton; the Cannon, Shannon Rich; and the Beast, Dan Severn. Are you guys all with me?
Yep. I'm here. I think we lost Dan.
And we may have lost Dan. Okay. I think I'll explain. Shannon, I know you know about this because you and Dan are close buddies. Looks like he's back. Dan is back. The Beast, I'm going to give you a little bit of a further intro. I've been around the pro wrestling and mixed martial arts worlds for so long now, around guys that have made a lot of money that have nothing to show for it. Dan Severn is one of the few anomalies that has been smart with his money. He's a good businessman. He's actually bought himself an island, and I know he's on that island right now. So reception is probably not great. There's the water. All right, Dan, you're showing off. Dan, can you hear us?
Yes, I am. Show and tell.
All right, cool. Man, it's really good to see you guys. I'm gonna keep the floor open today. I want to start with this. So, Travis, let's go right into the let's go right into the fighting world for a minute, or the mentality. I've read a lot of interviews with you recently, and there's some pretty darn, I want to say, entertaining stuff out there. Your quotes are awesome. It's been enlightening. I know you have a very particular attitude toward fighting. I mean, this is a very general and basic question, but in your mind, what's an MMA fighter? What's the personality and mindset of an MMA fighter?
Just, I don't know. I think they all got different mindsets. Depends on if they're actually a fighter or if they're just someone out there trying to make money, or I mean, exactly just what their mentality is or what their goals are in the sport. I don't think any one guy can be summed up as just an MMA fighter.
Okay, you've got a huge record. What is your posted win-loss record? Do you know that right offhand? I know it's different everywhere you look, but what's the record that you tell people?
Let's see if that keeps stirring out. There's some I don't count, like they'll count, like I've done the pancrase matches, and I don't count those. I can't punch you. I mean, that takes a lot away from what I can do. So I believe my record is 251, 48, and 7.
Okay, so you've won 251 sanctioned fights. I mean, dude, that's crazy. You in the interview I read, you talked a lot about how you didn't like to train or go to the gym. You just kind of like pop in the ring or the cage and just do your thing. Yeah.
Well, a long time ago, I didn't like to train. Actually, somewhere around like 2010, so about 10 years ago, I found I liked training more than I liked fighting. But back in the day, I didn't want to go to the gym and spar. If you're going to punch me in the face, I want to get paid for it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
So I just, and there were guys in the gym that it was just boring, but now I enjoy training. I don't like fighting much. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting. And Shannon, on that note, I know that you own a gym. I know that you're instructing 4 days a week now in Arizona, and we'll get your website up and all that in a moment to let people know where and where you are and how to reach you. But I also know on the other side that you'll darn near fight anybody, anywhere, at any time with no notice, and you've done that.
Yeah, that's been my moniker since I started this thing. And you asked Travis, what does it take to be an MMA fighter? I think it's a guy who just has balls, man. You gotta go in there and fight, and you can't be afraid of anybody. So I mean, to be an MMA fighter, especially now, you got to be well trained. You got to be, you got to have, you got to be a good athlete. You can't just be one dimensional. Like when Dan first started in the early UFCs, guys were either a boxer, they were a wrestler, or they were a karate guy. And now it's like, man, you got to be everything. You can't just be one.
So guys like, okay, so when Dan started, I was at UFC 1. That's like Woodstock. Everyone says they were at Woodstock. Yeah. I'll look you guys in the eyes and say, I honestly was at UFC 1, but it was an accident. I happened to be in Denver, and I saw the advertisements in the newspaper. I lived in Denver for many years, so I called this guy, Zane Breslov, who was a WWF promoter for Denver, asked him if he had anything to do with this. He goes, yeah, I'm the local promoter. I asked him if he had, by chance, a couple extra tickets. He's like, I got nothing but tickets. We can't give these things away. If you can believe that, right, for UFC 1. So he gave me and my buddy Jay Troy 2 tickets, and I remember going in there, and I remember the horrible graphics up on the fuzzy big screens saying things like boxer, wrestler, Hawaiian bone breaker. I mean, there were some great styles that I had never heard of before or since. And Dan, when you started, I know they called you wrestler. And you obviously, as your career went on, became very multi-dimensional. How would a one-style guy, the best guy in the world at his style, whatever that might be, how would he do now in today's game?
Oh, well, Shannon basically hit the nail on the head. You have to be faceted in all areas. You can't have one because the sport has evolved so much in the span of time. Grapplers can strike with the best of strikers, and strikers can grapple with the best of the grapplers. It's you have to be multidimensional, and you have to be very skilled in that in those areas as well. Like just as Shannon was saying before, when I first began, this the whole show was basically style versus style. Can a karate guy beat a taekwondo guy, beat a wrestler, beat a sumo guy? No weight classes, no time aspects. It was the Wild Wild West. I think it was probably more of a novelty to watch at that point in time, the clashes of the different size individuals and the different they were allowed to wear gis and things of that nature as well. They actually wanted you to wear a uniform that depicted your discipline. They wanted, for example, they wanted me to wear an amateur wrestling singlet, and at that time you could actually grab the material and use it to your advantage. And I kept thinking, no, I'm not going to wear an amateur wrestling singlet because you could grab the shoulder straps and you could choke somebody out with that. And that happened just actually 2 shows later that Scott Ferozzo ended up getting, I think, choked out by Gary Bolanger, if I remember the correct names there. But it's just a Wild Wild West when it was taking place, and it has really morphed into just a phenomenal across the universe here, really.
So let's talk about that Wild Wild West vibe a little bit more. This is a question for all 3 of you guys, so answer it in whatever order you like, or I can help direct traffic. But in the early days when you guys first fought, and you all fought in the earliest of days, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you know about your opponent before you got in the cage with them?
Nothing. Nothing.
So a bunch of zeros, right?
Zero.
1 to 10. I mean, what?
Hey,
now,
Rick, if I
was
can
no
interrupt
computer,
you
there was
in
no
that
internet,
moment,
so-
how many guys today do you think would fight on less than 24 hours notice? What I mean by that is, back in the early era of the UFC, you would meet at a Friday night, basically conference, because it was not a weigh-in, because there were no weight classes. You would actually meet at this introduction of the fighters, and they would have 8 men that would be sitting up there, and then you'd have your mediator in the middle, and basically, he would just be calling each one to stand on up, state your name, what your weight is, where you hail from, what your martial art is, and then you sit back down. And once they did all these introductions, they would pull out a bingo ball machine that had 8 balls in it, with each one with a name on it. As you spun it, whatever first name would come out might say, like, Hoist Gracie. Second one they spin out there might say, Travis Fulton. And boom, you got match number 1 right there. Less than 24 hours before you're about to step into the cage, you finally find out who your first opponent is going to be. Nevertheless, who the next 2 men might possibly be. So
the guys
talk
now,
about some daring individuals. That was some daring.
the guys
times.
nowadays, they don't. None of those guys would not let alone fight less than 24 hours, but they'd less fight if the guy's overweight, giving up 1 or 2 pounds. I mean, they used to see guys crying over half a pound, or the guy's a quarter of a pound over.
Right.
The funniest about today is where these guys, what's a foul, and how they play it up.
God.
He elbowed me in the back of the head, or he'd kneed me while I was down, and it was like, have you ever been kneed in the head by Dan Severn on the ground? It doesn't feel very good. So, just in the old days, like, any of that went, and headbutts, everything. And one of my favorite headbutts was in Japan. If you fight in Japan, the crowds don't make noise.
Nope.
And I was fighting guys, and I headbutted him, and it was just like hitting a watermelon, the way it sounds on the video. These days that's instant disqualification, but just the way these guys think about the rules these days.
Yeah, the mindset's a wholly different thing now, isn't it? And as Dan asked how many people would fight on less than 24 hours notice. Well, I'd say that same answer as the first question, 0, probably.
Yeah.
But you guys would just get in there and do that. So I'm wondering, like, what it takes, what goes through your mind when you're in that audience, Dan, and the ball was drawn. And I'm amazed to hear about that, by the way. I want to get back to that in a moment, because I always thought those early draws were rigged. I didn't realize they were random. But I thought they were all rigged for Horace to go where he needed to go on his path to the finals. But, God bless him and Horion for not doing that. But what was it like when you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm a wrestler, and now I just drew a guy whose style is Hawaiian bone breaking? Would that even register on you at all, or is it just like, whatever? How does that feel?
Okay, was that a question towards me, Rick?
For either of you guys, any of you?
Okay, well, I mean, it was, again, first time going through it, it was all kind of a brand new experience, especially when I'm there. Well, you mentioned before the fact that I represented the sport of wrestling. That's all they had, wrestling. Because as I arrived at UFC number 4, I've got, there's some paperwork to be filled out, and basically they're filling it out for you. So they're asking your name, your age, your weight, all this kind of stuff. And then they asked me a question I had never been asked before. They're like, well, what's your martial art? Why? I never had been asked a question like that before. I simply just looked at them. I said, I'm an American wrestler. Well, they had never heard that response before. They kind of leaned forward. They looked to the left. They looked to the right. And they're like going, what exactly does that do? And then I'm kind of thinking, well, I did the same thing. I kind of leaned in, looked left and right. I go, you might want to watch. I'm kind of making this up as I go. Because
That's
much like what Travis was saying, the fact of training for like an upcoming event. I mean, I didn't train for these events. I in a 20-year span, I did 2 training camps, once for 32 days, once for 35 days. Now, granted, I was running ongoing classes in it, and I always loved it when there was an odd number. Odd number means I get to play all the time, and I like to jump in those classes. But getting back to what you asked right there, the mentality it takes, you simply know when you go into a tournament format, you have to finish off your opponent as quickly as possible without taking any kind of injury that's going to hinder you in match number 2 and or match number 3. But I think it was easier. I think it was an easier time to make a star, though, because you might win your first match. Okay, you win your first match, but by your second match, you're out there. You might have a little bit of mouse over your eye, and you look like you've been kind of tore up a little bit there, but you're ready to throw down again. But by that third match, when you look like you've been pulled through a knothole backwards, you're all messed up, and yet you're really just ready to throw down again. People just thought that was just insane. And the fact that no time limits. So that was just another, they wanted ultimate victory. They wanted someone to be unconscious, whether they were choked out, knocked out. Your corner could throw the towel in at that time. It wasn't until I think UFC number 3 on that Big John McCarthy was able to do referee stoppage.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yep. And even then, John, as good as he is, wasn't really quick to stop fights. You're right. They were looking for the unconscious body in the middle of the cage. It was a different world back then. I've got a question for all 3 of you guys. So you've got tons of fights between you. You've stood across the cage or the ring from a lot of opponents.
How about we fought all each other?
I was going to bring that up too.
Yeah, everyone's fought everybody here.
Yes, I know, it's great. Shannon, you fought Travis and Dan. Dan, you fought Shannon and Travis. Travis, you fought Shannon and Dan. So what is it like, you guys, when you see each other now, being that you've been across from each other, and I don't know if you try to knock each other unconscious, or my question is this: when you go in to fight, what does your heart tell you about your opponent? Are you there to do damage? Are you there to hurt them? Or are you there to get an athletic victory? What's it all about?
The sport. I mean, win at all costs. About it.
I mean, for me, I never really tried to hurt anybody. I was always there just to try to win. And like right what Travis said, win at all costs. But I never really intended to like do damage on somebody, you know, more than I had to. I mean, it was a competition as a professional athlete, just trying to win. And I think now when Travis and Dan see, you know, we see each other now, we're all friends, you know. It's a common respect and mutual respect for, like, you step in a cage with anybody, I don't care, you know, fight each other or not. You know, a fighter, you automatically have a bond or respect for that person because you know what they've been through. And, you know, going in that cage, they lock the door. Hey, man, it takes a lot of balls to get in there and fight.
Yeah, you know, Shannon, I've tried to explain that to many people over the years that, you know, a professional mixed martial arts fighter, especially the guys who have achieved the higher levels like you guys have, that there's a real respect. And like, you know, like you said, there's a bond. Because as you know, especially in the early days, people from the outside looking in said, that's a thugs game. It's a bunch of thugs. It's a bunch of, you know.
People thought we were crazy. You know, you tell somebody you're a cage fighter, they looked at you like, man, you what? You do what? And now it's very common and everybody's like, oh, my friend's a cage fighter. Oh, my friend fights a UFC. Everyone fights for the UFC.
Really?
Yeah, it's all UFC.
It's
Right.
like people don't realize the internet exists, and you could easily call somebody on their bullshit pretty easy.
Who needs the internet, Travis? You used to know every single fighter and their record. I mean, you're like an encyclopedia.
I was the Rain Man before the internet existed, really.
Yeah,
before there were databases, I used to know everybody's shit.
Yep.
I don't know why. I don't even care anymore, and I haven't cared in like 15 years, but I used to.
There was a time.
Do you guys
watch the current product? Any of you?
I do, man. I watch it all the time. I'm a huge fan. Justin Gaethje's from Arizona, one of my favorite fighters.
I haven't seen a UFC in, I don't know, clips on TV when I'm somewhere where it's on, but I never watch it.
So why do you not watch it now?
It's boring. I couldn't tell you who. I think Conor McGregor probably has a belt. I couldn't tell you who else holds one. John Jones, maybe? I don't know. I don't watch it. I mean, it's boring.
And Dan, watching?
I did not watch it in the beginning. I didn't even know it existed because, you know, just like Travis was saying and Shannon was saying, that the internet was not strong, and you know, I didn't even know it existed. You know, like pay-per-views, you can watch a pay-per-view from your cell phone nowadays, whereas at that time, you know, the cell phone wasn't even all that advanced. And pay-per-views were only being played in major metropolitan areas. So it was brought to my attention by a friend, and they actually showed me an old VHS tape. They copied one of the UFC shows. I think it was like number 1 or number 2. They copied, and they showed it to me and said, hey, you ought to think about doing this. And I'm watching people being soccer kicked in the face. I'm seeing teeth that are flying out. And I'm thinking, you know, these are not exactly skills I possess. But then they said, hey, look at this scrawny guy doing jiu-jitsu. Now, granted, he was referring to Royce Gracie. And I kept thinking, well, a person does have to be within arm's range to punch, kick, knee, or elbow. I kept thinking, well, if I stay out of range, close the distance quickly enough, clinch, take down, and jam them up against the cage wall, I stand a chance. And that was kind of like the basis of how I advanced forward in that crazy industry.
That's so, Dan. So that brought a couple of things to mind what you were just talking about. When you first, I want to ask all three of you this question. Travis, I know that you were quite the active street fighter in your day. I know that. Dan and Shannon, I don't know if you guys have that experience. I do want to ask about that in a moment. But the first question I want to ask, when you're sizing somebody up, what was, so you're all new to the sport at a certain point, when we were all new to it, what was your first impression when you saw Royce Gracie?
I thought he was a scrawny little guy. I didn't know anything about him. I was like, how's this guy going to win?
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I thought that might be the answer. And Travis, how about yourself?
Well, the first time I saw him was UFC 3. And as you know, like, he had the fight with Chemo, and that was it. And then the next time I saw him was UFC 4. And I think that was Dan's debut. And I was shocked that he beat Dan. We thought Dan was going to kill him.
Dan, were you shocked Why that match?
Well, no, I mean it's I know going into the tournament in the for the first format, I knew that my international wrestling background really helped me out a great deal. Why I say that is because a lot of countries don't like the United States, and to be screwed over on the mat and to have dirty things happening to you out on the mat, people trying to choke you for real with use your headgear against you, things of that nature, even fish hooking you. That was a pretty commonplace to see happen in uh, in amateur wrestling on the international basis.
Oh, no, no
I mean,
kidding. Okay, all right. Because
yeah, I mean,
people look at wrestlers as being all American, but it's not really quite the way
now,
it is.
I always say that inside the United States, it is civilized, it is nice, but international competition is a whole different animal. And matches used to be 9 minutes long, three-minute periods, and that's a tall undertaking when you go that long. But I'm trying to think, what was the original question that you asked about? Was okay, looking at Hoist Gracie. No, I mean I learned real quick in the wrestling room that size did not matter. I went to college at Arizona State University, and on a regular basis, I would watch little Billy Rosado. He wrestled at the 118-pound weight class, and I would watch him probably at least once or twice a week. He would attack Big James Mitchell, the heavyweight at Arizona State, who weighed 450 pounds. Well, excuse me, no, about 420, 425 is what he weighed. And little Billy Rosado choked him out every single time. And it amazed me, that cliche. It's not the size of the man in the fight, but the size of the fight in the man. And I kept thinking, he proved it time and time again. I always would say, pound for pound, he was the toughest guy I ever seen in a wrestling room.
At 118. Okay, so you saw Hoist, and there was no prejudgment on your part at all. What do Shannon? You're teaching kids, is that right?
Yeah, I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to kids, adults, everybody.
All right, so kids come into this now, and Dan, I know you run a lot of camps. Travis, do you get involved in instruction ever? Have you in the past?
Oh, I'm a dog, man. I can't be. I got to be coached. I can't. I can't coach for shit.
All right, fair enough, man. That's honest. What do you guys tell people these days when they want to be fighters? Do you have a standard line of advice?
I tell them why. I mean, it's really hard. When I get somebody to come in and wants to be a fighter, I pretty much tell them I'm not your guy. I don't want to train any fighters. I don't want to teach fighters. I got one person that's my protege that I'm actually training, but other than that, I don't want to do it, man. Fighters are prima donnas. They're crybabies. You got to babysit them. I mean, dude, they never have any money. I mean, fighters are the hardest people in the world to deal with.
I'm going to interrupt here on Shannon because I think Shannon and Dan can both agree with this because these guys both have traveled the world, as I have too, where we didn't bring a corner guy.
Yeah.
And most guys can't go anywhere without their coach because they need their coach and they're coddling the whole time, remind them they're a man.
Yeah, hold their hand.
Yeah, hold their hand throughout the whole fight. Like, you can do it. It's like, I don't need anybody there to tell me I can do it. And these guys don't either. But a lot of those fighters do. That's why they won't go anywhere without their coach to tell them they're great and remind them they're awesome. And it's like, whatever.
On a comedic note, I'll play off of what Travis has said right there because, Rick, when you introduced me, you kind of mentioned the fact that I'm a little bit more of the financially savvy individual. Well, that is true. And I used to negotiate more money for my purse because I did not travel with a second or a corner man.
Yep, I did.
Like, well, who?
I learned it from Dan.
Like,
I actually learned that from Dan.
They're like, who's going to be the corner? I look around in the locker room.
That guy.
Some scrawny little kid. I say, what are you doing for the next 20, 25 minutes? And he like be wide-eyed, shocked. And because, I mean, the reality is all I ever would have was someone that as long as they had a water bottle and a towel and a watch. Because when they finally did go to the element of time, I would just have them yell out 4 minutes or left, 3 minutes or left. But once we got through on that 2 minute mark, I had them always say, give me the 30-second intervals, because at that point, if I felt
Win the
I might be
round.
losing a round, I knew what I had to do to turn it around to win that round. So other than that, I did not have to have a corner person.
Yeah, and I always thought that was interesting, Dan. And Shannon, you say you learned that from Dan. Dan, I remember, and I got to tell a story. I hope Dan doesn't mind this, but I'm going to bring it up. I booked Dan for a fight once in London. And do you remember that, Dan, at Cage Rage, when Cage Rage was very hot? And
is this where I was stranded in an airport for 3 days?
Yes, that was the one.
Okay.
That was the one.
All right.
And you fought a gentleman by the name of Dave Lugino. I know you've had so many fights. You may not remember him, or you may. Really good dude. He passed a few years ago, unfortunately. And Dave was the promoter's boy. They were really looking out for him. And he lost his first 3 fights. Then he came back and he won 3. He beat Chemo. He beat Herb Dean in Herb's last fight. They had me bring you in. You, of course, showed up with no corner man, and I remember you talking about why. So I remember that. And I don't know if you remember the following or not, but they came to me and they go, "Hey, Dave's on a pretty good roll here, man. We know Dan's a businessman. We'll throw him another 10 grand if he'll, do the honors for Dave here. And but we don't want Dave to know about it." I'm like, okay. And I brought it to you, and you turned it down. I was really surprised that you turned that down.
Yeah.
So how you guys come from the early days, man? How many times were you approached to do essentially pro wrestling matches? What was supposed to be a mixed martial arts fight? Does that happen a lot, you guys?
I can tell you on what you were saying there about the promoters' boys. One of the good things about the athletic commissions is on 2 different occasions, I had to go the distance, and boys gave the fights to me. Because the judges were afterward.
Travis, John, it sounds like Travis is cutting out on us. Are you getting him?
No, I cut out a little bit there.
They're cutting out, Travis.
Travis, you're cutting out. We can't get what you're saying. I don't know if there's a way to adjust your connection or not.
Go back to the hotspot.
All right, he's going to come back, it looks like.
You guys,
well, Shannon, are you back? I think you're good.
I was fine. I could hear you guys. I don't know what happened to you.
Right.
Now you're good. Now you're good.
All right, say it again, Travis.
What I was saying was, twice I was before the athletic commissions were in place. I fought an event where I fought the promoter's boy, and I won the fight. I went the distance, and the promoter took the scorecards and gave it to the other guy. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I mean, I knew the judges, so I asked. And I was actually at an event. I helped Dan get a fight in Minnesota, and they tried to do that to Dan, and I wouldn't let them. And I mean, they were going to screw Dan on a fight. I don't even know if Dan remembers that. They were going to give it to his opponent, and I wouldn't let him do it because Dan won the fight. So
yeah, I do recall that one offhand.
You guys hear all? It was against a guy named Brian Hedin.
And then, guys, I actually once accused Shannon of doing a pro wrestling match on one of my shows. Do you remember that, Shannon? This was, I'm a pro wrestling guy by trade. I usually know. I'm sorry.
One of the Valor shows.
It was a Valor fighting show. You were booked in the main event with another very good friend of mine, Maverick, the Soul Collector.
Yeah, Harvey.
And I usually know what I'm looking at. And you guys did a fight, and it was like an action movie, man. It really was. I mean, it was flipping nuts. And I went up to you guys afterwards, and you think I would know from my background. And I actually asked you guys, and you both said, "Nope, that was legit." I said, "Good enough for me, man. That's all right." But Have you found yourself in those situations often in your career or not? Not been part of the deal for you?
Which guy are you asking?
Shannon.
Oh
I'm
no,
asking
no,
Shannon.
no, nope.
Yeah, it's you read all the old stories, the Mark Hall, Don Fries, and the rest of them, and I get that question a lot, being that I was so involved in pro wrestling and crossed over to mixed martial arts. Do you guys think, with the advent of the athletic commissions and regulation by the commissions, that there are any fights still that are being worked in the sport, or do you think that is a thing of the past?
I think it's a
Hey,
thing because even a lot of
Rick,
times promoters or the athletic commission, if I've had a couple times where they've said during the rules meeting, if they suspect that, you're suspended indefinitely.
Mm-hmm. Dan?
yep. Can you hear me okay, Rick?
Yep.
Yep. What I was going to just to jump in on a couple different things was, I've been involved in a lot of matches where the promoter basically had a much lesser skilled athlete for me, and basically what they knew I would do is, I mean, it's a real fight, but literally I would put on a show, in a sense that I would grab the guy and I would lateral drop him into the cage wall and he'd bounce off it or something like that. I would throw wicked knees into their body, but instead of actually hitting them in the body and really hurting them, instead of hurting them, I would thump my knee right into the floor mat in itself, to where it was. I had some professional wrestlers watching me, and they're like, going, they made the comment, Dan Severn, the only guy I know that can work a shoot and shoot a work.
No,
Which
that,
was, I mean, a high praise comment, but my opponents did not know that, though, at the time.
no, and I hear you. So it's a shoot, yet you're putting on a show. Isn't even if you're that far superior, aren't you still running a risk that you could get caught, or are you so in control that just ain't possible?
Well, no. There's always going to be a chance, because it's a fight. I mean, there's a lot of. Well, I think that's the word is called an upset, or someone tees off on you all of a sudden, where you got all the bets are because someone is such a high profile individual. No, I mean, there's always that risk right there. And then again, just always just depends. I've only ever had that. I think maybe something like that happened to me maybe once or twice, where I was putting on the show and it worked against me, to where I got caught with something, or I ran out of gas and couldn't and then fell victim to somebody else.
Yeah, you just don't know, do you? I was telling Travis when we spoke on the phone last week that I brought Mark Coleman to Pride for the first time, and he did that match with Takata. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. And that's when Mark had lost his UFC deal. He needed money, and it was a big payoff. And he was brought there to put Takata over. And during that fight, Mark beat the hell out of Takata, and he had him in a neck crank. And I was sure he was going to tap him. I think I was the first corner man in the history of the business yelling instructions at their fighter how to lose the fight. I mean, I think it would have been really bad if he had won that fight. We may not have come out of Japan alive. I don't know. But yeah, that was good times. Shannon and Dan, you guys have both done a considerable amount of pro wrestling. Do you have more coming up in your immediate futures?
Yeah, absolutely. I just signed with Heart Legacy Wrestling, so as soon as this whole COVID thing is up and gone, I'll be going back to Canada wrestling there. So yeah, I love pro wrestling, man. I think it's great.
You're a showman. Sorry, Dan.
Well, no, just basically same there for me there, Rick, in the sense that I'll say that life will start reemerging there. It's right around September. That a lot more bookings. A lot of these promoters they're booking things far enough out, because they'll hopefully by then the social distancing will have gotten closer and closer, and they might allow more fans to appear. I think it's both the UFC and the WWE that actually ran the very first couple events minus the crowds, but they had to have temperatures, all kinds of things in place in order to do that. I did have a lot of fun with that because I think I told you previously that I was doing an interview just after Dana White had made the comment that he was going to be running the fight shows on a private island.
Fight Island, yes.
Yes. And that's when the interviewer was asking me, he says, well, what do you think about Dana White saying this? And I go, well, I don't think I'm at liberty to say. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, yours truly just recently purchased an island. And all of a sudden, he ran for it. He bought it hook, line, and sinker. And he's like, you're hosting the UFC on your island? And I'm like, no, I didn't say that. So literally, as I'm trying to put out the fire, I was kind of fanning the flames at the same time. So I had a lot of fun during that interview.
All right, folks, you heard it here first. Fight Island is not in Abu Dhabi. It's at Dan Severn's compound in Michigan. The main event, three-way dance. Dan Severn versus Travis Fulton versus Shannon Rich. I like it.
Is there really the Fight Island? Is that an Abu Dhabi thing?
Has it been announced where it is?
He hasn't announced the island yet. So, I mean, right now he said it's the infrastructure is being built. They're building the venue and, the housing, the dorms, everything, warm-up room areas. He says, but he hasn't said where it's at. But he said he did buy one.
And I guess they booked Paige Van Zandt as the main event in the first Fight Island. I'd like to fight Paige Van Zandt. That'd be fun. But, that's just
I got a funny like Abu Dhabi, because I got invited. I don't know if I went to the second or third one of those, and I mean it was like that. You didn't know who you were taking on, and I just remember there was this big, fat, young-looking guy, and I'm like, I want that fat fuck in the first round, and I got him, and his ass was so big, I couldn't shoot a double on him. He wasn't even strong, but I couldn't get him down, and it went 15 minutes with no decision. And they gave him the win. They said he was the aggressor, and I disagreed with that. But the guy I took on was Josh Barnett. I mean, I didn't know who he was. but I was all pissy pants, and I went home because I felt like I ripped off and whatever. That's stupid.
Now, you ended up competing against Josh or not then?
No, I took on Josh in the Abu Dhabi when I competed up there.
Yeah.
But I didn't know who he was. I mean, he just looked like a chubby guy. And
talk about looks can be deceiving, right? He's probably the poster child for that, I would say.
Oh, he was.
Him and Roy Nelson.
Yeah.
Roy Nelson has the same kind of body type.
But Josh got beat in the semifinals by I don't know who the fuck the guy was. He looked even chubbier and younger than Josh, and he tossed him and beat him 2-0 or something. They had weird scoring over there, but I never heard of that guy before or heard of him since. I didn't remember his name.
So, hey, I'd like to switch gears a bit. I know you guys all have things you're working on. Dan, I know you got 1,000 things you're working on. You're always at the top end of entrepreneurship. I want to ask, what's exciting in your lives right now? What are you working for and hoping the next couple of years brings for you? Shannon, do you want to take that first?
Well, I just opened the gym back up, cannonbjj.net, and here in Glendale, Arizona. So I got the gym going back open. We're doing that. I'm training my ass off, man. I'm trying to get back in shape. I was fighting heavyweight for a while, so I'm dropping back down to the 205 area. I don't want to be a fat guy no more. And we'll see what else happens. I got a documentary coming out. We're in the final phases of editing it, and hopefully we get it out on Netflix.
Yeah, I've seen some of the tape. It looks really good, man. I hope to see it on Netflix. What I've seen looks amazing so far. So good.
It's gonna be good.
And did I read somewhere recently that you're after Mike Tyson for a bare knuckle belt?
Well, see, right now I'm the current heavyweight bare knuckle boxing champion, and he wants to do bare knuckles, so I called him out. I also called out, Vanderlei Silva, Shannon Briggs. None of these guys, everybody wants to say they want to fight until it comes to sign the dotted line. I've been here, I have the belt, and I've been saying, hey, guys, let's fight. And nobody wants to fight. So I'm just sitting here with a belt going, when am I going to fight again?
So let's talk about that fighter mindset then. So you're saying here on the record, you would absolutely get in a boxing ring and fight Mike Tyson in boxing rules with no gloves on?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Why not?
No, why not? I don't know. Why not, man? I'm guessing
I got
most.
pretty big hands, man.
All right. Travis, would you fight Mike Tyson bare knuckles boxing? Oh, we lost him. He'll be back.
I'm sure he would.
I'm sure he would too. I want to ask him this question. The man with
Ask
I'll
Travis.
just jump in there, Rick. I'll just jump in there, Rick, and say that. No, I'll pass. I'll pass on that one.
Ask Travis. I bet he'll do it.
What do I do in here?
Would you fight Mike Tyson in a bare knuckle boxing match?
I don't give a fuck. The only thing I'm working on right now is a 12-pack of Bud Light. I ain't got nothing going.
But you'd fight him, right? If they offered you the fight, you'd do it.
I'd do it. I don't give a shit.
I figured
I'd
you
be a
would.
dirty boxing motherfucker. I might bite his ear.
Absolutely.
That's a mindset. Now, Dan, I know you're a little more analytical. So you already said no. That's not your fight. Boxing with Mike Tyson bare knuckle. But
would that be a good night? Yeah, wouldn't that be a good night for me?
Fair enough. But you could do the Roddy Piper, Mr. T deal where you just take him down, take the disqualification, right?
Yeah, I saw Dan do that with Butterbean once. Tell about that one, Dan. Dan and Butterbean. Dan took him down.
Oh wait, Dan, were you booked with Dean?
I had to keep. Yeah, I did a boxing match with Butterbean, but I mean, he was trying to throw these big old haymakers. I just kept clinching them and lateral dropping them.
I did not know you and Bean had been in the ring together. That's awesome.
I mean, it was great. I mean, he ended up winning the bout because I ended up getting disqualified because I did keep throwing her because I wasn't about to let him tee off on me.
Yeah, man, getting hit by Bean full on is just not good. I think I cornered Bean maybe 15 times, and it's always an experience for sure. I did not know that you did a match with him. That's great.
I was actually supposed to fight Butterbean, and it was a weird deal. It was out in Idaho, and when I got there, the event was going to start in like 15 minutes, and all they had was the frame of the ring set up, and I'd never seen that before. And then when they start putting the wood on, it's like this 1/4-inch plywood, and Butterbean complained to him about it, like, this ain't going to hold us, and the athletic commission gave the promoters like an hour to fix this, and they just basically sat on their hands, and the event got canceled, and we all got paid, and that was it. So I didn't even get to fight him, but I got paid for it. So
hey, that's not a bad night. Shannon, have you fought Bean before or been in the ring?
No.
How has that not happened? That's amazing.
I don't know.
I can't believe it. Hey, I like to give shout outs sometimes to people that are on and watching. The big cat, Tom Erickson, is on watching us. So I always like to say hi to Tom.
What's up, Tom? Tom's a good dude.
Yeah,
Tom and I were in Pride 11 together. We were and we fought in Pride together.
And one of the top MMA fighters probably ever that never became the household name that he should have become. But I wanted to say hi. I'm glad he's on. I want to give a shout out also to David Marquez, who is the founder and president of United Wrestling Network, one of the top promoters worldwide right now. And Dave, if you're watching, man.
Yep, I've worked with Dave a couple times in the past. So yeah, he's a good man.
You know Dave Marquez, yes.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm thinking you and Shannon and Travis as a 6-man tag in pro wrestling would be money, man. That'd be pretty cool.
Let's go.
I'm serious. I'm not kidding around, Dave.
Let's do it.
I'm planting the seed. Yeah, that would be awesome. I love it.
You plant it, I'll water it. Let's go.
All right, cool. Travis, are you going to put any more fights up, or are we officially retired?
I've never once said I was retired, so I'm only 43 as of today. I'm half these guys' age. Shannon's still fighting.
Travis,
Dan, it's my birthday. I'm old.
Oh, happy birthday, man.
Today.
Dan fought till he was like 65 years old. So, I got some time left.
At 43, you could probably get another couple hundred in easily.
Yeah.
Possible.
That is awesome. That is fantastic. Travis, apart from the 12-pack of beer, what else is happening in life. And happy birthday, by the way. I didn't know it was your birthday today.
What?
That's really cool.
Ah,
What else is happening in life? Like what's exciting that's happening in Iowa and in the Fulton household?
nothing. I'm on my own island except for I'm not surrounded by water. My nearest neighbor's a mile away. I live in the middle of nowhere, and I live alone, and I ain't got shit going on. Come on, it's Friday night. I'm drinking alone. It's my birthday. That's how much I got going on.
Wow.
Well, you know what, Travis, I'm gonna, and it's, life's interesting. I'm gonna get philosophical for a moment. Okay, so guys and girls watching, Travis Fulton is the man who has more mixed martial arts fights on record than anybody in the history of the planet.
The Iron Man of MMA.
So I would imagine you're in the Guinness Book of Records. I haven't looked at a Guinness book in years, but I would imagine that you'd be in there for that. And you're home Friday night in Iowa drinking alone. It's like, I'm just going to say this. I'm not trying to make you feel bad because I'm on Maui, which sounds all kinds of cool. And I've got my Emmy award, and I've got, as a top executive at the Walt Disney Company. And you know what I'm going to be doing tonight? Sitting home and Friday night drinking alone. So I'm right there with you, Travis. Happy birthday, and I'll raise a glass to you later for sure. Shannon, are you living clean these days?
Oh yeah, man. Everything. Yep.
Always, huh?
Yep.
And Dan, I won't even ask you, man. I know that we were in pubs together in England, and I don't think we could even get you to hold a beer, could we?
Yeah, Dan doesn't drink too much, right, Dan?
Well, no, and you still can't because I don't like the taste of beer. That's all it is.
Right.
I mean, I'll drink like a wine spritzer, wine cooler, that kind of stuff. I mean, so I'm a lot of these guys, they're always like, "Damn, let's do shots." I go, "Well, okay." I'll be like doing a shot. No, I just don't care for the taste. So yeah. That's just me. Just my preference.
You know what I loved about that? What I really liked about that, Shannon and Travis, is that we're talking to the UFC Hall of Famer, Dan the Beast Severn, and he drinks wine spritzers. I love that. Or
Mountain Dew. He's a Mountain Dew guy too.
Or Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
right. I don't know. Mountain Dew is pretty hardcore compared to wine spritzers.
Diet though, right, Dan? Diet Mountain Dew.
Right. There you go. All right.
Well, now again.
Sorry, Dan?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So try to keep those calories down. Come on now.
I don't think their internet's working so well, man. Their connection.
Yeah, we've lost.
Mountain Dew. I plead out because Did you lose me? Am I still on?
Yeah, you were cutting out there for a second.
Hello.
Am I back with you guys?
You are.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, we got Travis back in voice. Dan is in and out. Shannon, you are loud and clear. So, man, you know what? One thing I get about you guys, and I've always thought, and Shannon and Dan, I know both you guys pretty well. Travis, we're acquainted recently. Is I think you're very different than what most people's perception of a professional fighter would be. I mean, first of all, you're all clean living. I mean, 12-pack of beer, big deal. Pretty clean.
Little heroin in there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, shit, shoot up every now and then. That ain't no big deal. Yeah, and when the veins on the arms aren't working, Travis, you know to go between the toes. All right, I'm sure you know that.
I mean, yeah, you got to hide it.
Right. Okay. Cool. Good. Glad we got that handled. Just shaking his head. Okay. All right. So I'm probably gonna end up shooting myself between the toes for this later. At the top of the introduction, I said I really wanted to avoid politics, and I don't really want to invite that discussion. But what I want to ask you guys is this right now: if you had the ear of the entire American public and the way people are fighting and conducting themselves right now, this is a kind of on-the-spot question. It has nothing to do with mixed martial arts whatsoever, but I think it has a lot to do with your fighter mentality. I mean, what's in your mind? What's your message for what's going on in this world right now?
Mine would be, hey, man,
Everybody's a bitch, and everybody was looking to get offended. So fuck all of you, and fucking live life, you bunch of pussies. That's what I'd say.
Fair enough, man. Shannon?
oh man, can't we all get along? I mean, this is 2020. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
And look, man, I back the blue badge. I got a lot of friends that are law enforcement. I'm former correction officer. I back the badge. But what happened in Minneapolis was definitely wrong. That guy, he should go to prison. Hey man, you know, one bad apple, it spoils a whole bunch. You know what I mean? Not all bad. All cops are bad. Not all cops are bad. You have a few bad guys. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It's not a race thing. Everybody wants to throw in this race thing. You know, it's not. It's not race thing, man. And people just need to learn, man. And I 100% say you can protest. That's great, man. I like to hear you protest. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. But when you start looting, man, you lost me when you loot. You know what I mean?
I
couldn't
agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, just bottom line there, just to throw my 2 cents in. Just, you know, I'm a big believer in just the golden rule there of life there, Rick, altogether. Just do unto others as the same as you'd want to have done unto you. So people are not even being civil to each other. So it's you know.
I want to echo what Dan just said, man. Shannon said it too. Can't we all just get along? And,
Can't we all just get along, man?
And Travis, in his old inimitable way, kind of said the same thing. But man, it's like I was having this discussion last night, Dan, with my good friend Darren McBee, who was Malibu of the American Gladiators, if you remember that. And we were talking about just how much divisiveness is out there right now, and it's Republican versus Democrat and left versus right and conspiracy theorists versus, you know, Republicans don't care if people die. Democrats don't care if the economy is ruined. And at the end of the day, man, it's like, look, you guys get in the ring and you fight. You're purists. You're not trying to hurt anybody. And if you would think if everybody adopted that attitude, I know this is I'm just sounding very remedial in saying this, but my message is, man, just be nice. Be nice. That would solve a lot of problems, man.
Look, man,
there's a lot of people they hate their own lives.
Look, all of us have been around the world. All of us have been around the world. And you know what? There's no better place than the United States of America. I don't care. I've been everywhere. The United States of America is the best place in the world. And you know what? People need to take care of it, because if we destroy it, it's not going to be here anymore.
Yep.
But because we're the United States, so that's why these people have a voice. In other countries, you'd be killed just for having that voice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So. Yep, absolutely.
Well, I hope that the voice remains alive and well, and that it stops sowing the seeds of hatred. That's all I have to say about that. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Tank Abbott. Who fought Tank Abbott here?
Just Dan.
Yeah, just Dan. I never got a chance.
Just Dan.
Yeah.
Dan, what was it like? Tank's a good friend of mine. I love Tank. But, you know, having the conversation with Tank about what was your mindset when you were fighting, Tank will tell you he was there to hurt people. What do you think when you hear that? What reaction comes to mind?
Yep, kind of broke up. Can you hear me okay, Rick?
Yeah, gotcha now. Yes. Did you you get that question?
My just so you know, my battery's running low. I'm down to about 20%. So if I do cut out, it means my battery probably died.
Fair enough. We're about to wrap up. Anyway. I was going to ask.
I did hear enough. If you could hear what I say, you know, when I first saw Tank Abbott, I mean, I could just see the mentality of him. He was out there to hurt somebody. I mean, literally, I felt that he was trying to secure the first kill in the octagon, because I mean the reality is you only had 2 rules to abide by: no biting, no eye gouging. So literally you could take another man's life. As a matter of fact, even on those early contracts, it stated, in the event of your accidental death, they're not liable. So, you know, I remember signing this contract. I'm thinking, what's my guarantee walking up here? $1,000. Well, I'm thinking that my carcass is worth more than $1,000. So, but you know, all I'll just say is that when I went out against Tank, I just say that I tried to nullify everything he could. I didn't want to be struck by him whatsoever, so I just basically used the ground game, used the clinch game, and just punished him on the ground.
Right. I bring it up, as mentioned, Tank's a friend. You probably know he's had some really hard times medically in the past couple of years. And, he's hanging in there. And he's a changed guy. You talk to him now. And I don't want to say he's a warm, fuzzy, gentle teddy bear, because that description probably never be attached to Tank Abbott. But, he's married. He's got a good, solid marriage. And talking to him now, you can tell the mentality has changed. So, I guess the moral of that is Tank Abbott can do it. Anybody can.
Yeah, I actually met him at a couple of different Comic-Cons, and I stopped by, shook his hands. To me, it's like going. I don't try to hold grudges against people. I try to simply just keep moving along. And I went and talked with him quite a bit, and you're exactly spot on there, Rick. He was definitely a changed individual.
Hey, Rick, the next time we do one of these, man, you got to get Don Fry on.
Oh, Don would be awesome on here.
Get Don Fry on here, man.
We will do that, man.
Are we going to do the Tom Selleck and Freddie Mercury thing?
Oh, you knew you weren't getting away with that without hearing that today, huh, Dan?
Tank Abbott said it.
I can't believe it. Wow.
That was awesome. I don't know. That's in some ways it's almost complimentary. That's all right. Hey guys, we are past the hour. Easily could talk with you guys all night, but I want to thank you for the time that you devoted to this today. I really do appreciate it. Shannon, I'm serious about the three of you guys together in a 6-man. I think we should get you to Japan. That'd be awesome.
Let's do it. Hey, make the phone call. We'll all go.
I'm on it. Travis,
I'll be all for it. That'd be fun.
I'll be there.
right on. Good. Hey, you guys, really, really good having you on. Thank you all. I want to, tell everybody out there, you heard it from Shannon Rich and Dan Severn. Travis said it in his own amazing way. Just be cool, man. Be nice. That can come across good. For Dan the Bee Severn, Shannon the Cannon Rich, and the Iron Man, Travis Fulton, signing off for Talking Tough. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.